What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Burndown YouTube channel. Before we get started today, I want to share something with you, and it is Mental Health Awareness Month, right? So check these out. These are stickers that my boy John over at John Chase Studios has. He runs the Destroyer clothing brand. So the mission behind his clothing brand is mental health awareness, and mostly it is for everybody, but mostly in the younger generations. Today's world is a crazy place, and some people can't deal with it very well, and they need some help. So help support. 100% of the proceeds go to mental health. He's not making any dough on any of these things, and you get two for the price of one, so you can share one with a friend. You can go check out his Instagram. You can go to johnchasestudios.com. I'll just flash it on the screen. You're gonna have to punch it in yourself, but if you have a couple extra bucks, do it. Stick the sticker on something, share the other one with somebody, and help support a great guy and a great cause. So without further ado, let's roll into what we're up to today. So we're still playing with the Bago. I know you guys are upset, but we're going racing this week. We're gonna go try some 60-foot hits and things, but the reason we've been messing with the Bago so much is one of my sponsors requested a high-resolution picture of this turd doing a burnout. And I guess I could have shared that with you guys a while ago, and that's why I've been like really adamant about working on the heat on the deal, and then also like having to get the fan running. Here's I was setting the stickers. This is the fan that we pulled out, so we got the other fan replaced. So she's doing well, but I had an idea that I thought was genius, and I already actually shot this video, and it didn't really work out. And then by the time I edited the thing, I'm like, this is kind of dumb to make people sit through something that didn't actually work out. So I'm gonna go over what actually failed, but we accomplished what we wanted to do, just not in the fashion that I really wanted. So let's jump in the Twinnebago, and I'll show you guys what we're working on today, and then we're gonna make a lap in the thing and make sure everything is okie dokie. All right. Oh yes. Oh yes. Welcome to my mess. So what we were messing with now is I put the other fan in because the right fan was kind of giving it the go, so we went to the junkyard. We got lucky. Now I've got backups in the whole nine, right? Well, I was thinking, I was like, man, I think I need a different fan strategy, because the fans, because it's pulse width and then the way I set the table up, it would just look at the table and run as hard as it needed to keep it at any given temperature, right? If it got hotter, it'd run a little harder. If it got cooler, it'd run a little less. And I got to thinking, like, man, I don't think the fans ever shut off in this thing. So I don't know the life of these junkyard gems that I'm getting. I don't know if they've already had a bazillion mile life and they're kind of at their last leg, or if that car that I got those out of, because I didn't actually pull those ones out of the Bago. So the original fans I put in the Bago, I didn't pull those out of the car. I just went and bought them. So I don't know what that car looked like. I don't know if it was hit or who knows what. So that's a long way to say I don't know what the lifespan. They're supposed to have a lot of hours on these fans, but I don't know the hours that are previously there, right? It's used parts we're getting. So my new fan strategy is turn them on, turn them off like a normal fan, right? It'll still have the soft start, but it's kind of like a normal fan. But the benefit I have with the pulse width is I have a whole table, right? So we're gonna trigger it to turn on and off at certain points, but it'll look at this table the whole time when you're driving. So depending on where the temperature is how hard it will run, right? So that's kind of cool. So it's not just an on or off, it's an on, and then when it looks at the table, your duty cycle's still there. So that's pretty slick, and you still get the soft start. So it is still awesome. And then I figured I'd take it one step further. I'm like, this is gonna be so cool, because I got it to where I could downshift it into third and keep it locked, because we messed with the traction or the TCC settings on the overdrive. So I'm like, man, wouldn't it be bitching if you just dropped it into third and then it changed the fan strategy, so that way the fans would kick on earlier. So like if you saw a hill coming, you're like, oh, here comes a big dog, and then you could kick it down into third and then just kind of bring the R's up, like when you're cruising up the hill, or maybe toward like the the bottom once you start to kind of ramp in. So you don't lug the motor and you can give everything a break. Well, as soon as you clicked it into third, I was like, wouldn't that be bitching if it looked at a different part of the table and fired the fans earlier, right? So this way, when I'm driving around, sitting in traffic, I can let it creep up to 205 or 210 or whatever I want, and then I can just grab it there, knock it down like a 195, and then shut the fans off. And then that gives them a bit of a break for the heat to build back up while the fans aren't doing anything. And then they'll kick on and grab it, knock it down. So instead of, when I came back from Vegas, that whole trip back, and hell, the whole trip there, we sat in a lot of traffic, and I know these fans were just cruising and keeping it at whatever temp I had the strategy set to. which was awesome. The thing stayed bitching, but it ran the entire time, probably there and back. And when we did the mountain trip and all that stuff, I don't think the fans, they just kind of cruised along. So I don't know if that's acceptable. If you do, leave a comment. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. But again, these fans are out like a 2012. That's a pretty old vehicle at this point. So I kind of feel better about just spinning them hard real for a short period of time and then turning them off, versus turning them on, just letting them go, right? So that's going to be my strategy moving forward. You guys can let me know what you think there. And then my third gear strategy, I was super excited because there's a trigger input where you can do range selection, right? So I did that and I had it working, and then we made the video and I'm like, yay. Well, I came home because I didn't have the black panel in there, so we weren't getting airflow, so this thing didn't like that. So I'm like, well, we'll put the black panel in and we'll make another run. And I put it in park when I came home and the fans didn't turn off. So I was like, So I'm like, oh, I don't have a deactivation. So then I set that and they still wouldn't turn off. And then by the time I messed with the deactivation to get to turn off, then the putting in third gear deal didn't work anymore. So I was bummed about that. And the only way I could figure to kind of override that is with a switch. So that's what we did today. So now we've got cooling central over here. Ta-da! So we've got, I'm calling it the hill fan switch, but essentially this is your cooling section now. So if this thing's getting warm, you can flip this before you hit the hill, and if she's still getting warm, you can give it the juice on top of that. And then this thing's supposed to have a light on it, like when it's on, so that's kind of cool, so you know, but either way, you know, up is on, down is off. And all this does is changes where the fan looks for the temperature. So let me show you. We'll open up Holly and I'll demonstrate it because I got it to work. And then we'll button a few things up and we'll take her for a ride. I also watched Apple's latest video where it was him and Joe and then Devin Vanderhoof were talking about like tuning. And it's funny because they're like, yeah, then you get these people that just waste your time. And Devin and the other guy are talking about having to charge money because everybody's like wasting their time and wants tunes and all this stuff. So of course, being the friend that I am, I shot Apple a text and I'm like, hey bro, I need your help with the Bago. And he doesn't do it for a living, so he doesn't bitch as much as the other two guys do. And he's always awesome. Like I said, he's my pen pal, he's my buddy. If you ever need anything, I would be there. I'm ever in PA, you know I'm coming to Starbucks, I'm gonna come find you, Apple. So thank you for your help on the Bago. And I wanted to make sure it was safe enough, so when we are trying to do burnout, I'd really like to keep the rods and stuff in this thing. I'm really not trying to break it. If stuff happens, it happens. But ultimately, I want to put this thing to rest and go, this thing is bulletproof bitchin'. And then we can start working on making it tow and doing other silly stuff with this. Because I have more plans, but I'm not like a squirrel. Like a lot of guys get all squirrel sidetracked. And I focus on something and just, I beat it till it is done. And it stays down. I beat it up. Like, you stay down, you're not getting back up. So let me show you the strategy. We'll button this up, go for a ride. Okay, here we are in the Holly. This is probably the point where you guys are going to unfollow me because I'm out of I/O on this. So I had to take the two-step out. I know. So now it says hill fans. So my input is hill fans, which is just a ground, right? So I'll show you. So that's there in the I/O, or in the pin map, I'm sorry. And then in the I/O inputs is hill fans, ground, and then it's enabled. So that's that. We'll figure something out later. I'd like to put two-step back in, but for now this is a bit more important to me. So if we go to outputs, smart fan, configure. So I have a switched input trigger now, and when you bring it in the drop down, it's hill fans, and when hill fans is enabled, it'll basically look at the table, which is here, right? So this is my table. And then the other thing, so it's either you turn this on or these parameters. So the other parameters I have are coolant temp above 202. And I put 202 because it takes about 3 to 4 degrees by the time these things register and start to spin. This climbs well over 205 to about 207, and then it'll kick it down and it shuts off at 195. And it has to do, it's all, so you have to have RPM. So the fans won't run unless you have RPM. Unless you switch this on, then I think all bets are off. It doesn't care what it's doing because it'll look straight at the table. So if we go over to our PWM, let's turn the key on. So this thing's on. We can grab a USB link. And then the little yellow ball will show you this is what the Holly sees right now. That's where it's looking because that's the temperature range. So if we grab these cells right here, and I'll put 50% duty cycle, right? So nothing is happening because it's not meeting these parameters, and then this thing is not on. But if we flip the switch and we go down here, you'll see it registered, and then they're gonna start to spin. So now it's looking at that table because we have an input trigger. And if I turn it off, see, they turn off. And then these are the other parameters that would make it turn off and on. So this is standard issue stuff, on then off, and then this will override that. So the cool thing about that, you're wondering, why is this a big deal, Dane? Well, if I override it, now what I can do is I can put additional cooling on a lower section of the table. So when I fire the fans, say you're cruising and you fire them, it'll start the fans earlier than like the 205. It'll kick them down here. It'll start them off at 193. So by 195, they'll be spinning, right? So if you're climbing a hill, you're already attacking it with the fans, and it just gives you additional headroom. That's all I'm trying to do. It's not because this thing needs the cooling when it's driving down the road. It's when you're driving and you see the mountain, you're like, hey, I can just hit this, and I know that my cooling system, the fans are already zinging, so when we start going up it gives me a head start, basically. So yeah, by the time you get to the top and all that, it's gonna be hot, but if you had fans off and you start running up it, it's gotta wait till the temperature climbs to 205 or 10 or whatever before the fans even decide to start partying. And then your heat already has a run on the fans instead of the fans already beating on the radiator, you know, trying to keep the heat out of it the whole time. So in my brain, and I've driven this thing and I've driven it up mountains, that's a better strategy. And now we're gonna go back to Lone Pine at some point. I don't have time right now. We're gonna put this bitch in third. We're gonna hit the hill fans right at the bottom of that hill, and we're gonna climb this thing. And I feel good about it, man, because we got close last time. I think with these two modifications, we can drive this thing up Lone Pine Canyon. It goes from 3,000 to 6,000 in like 7 miles. We are money, and I'm calling this thing ready to rock and roll. As far as towing, I don't think I'd ever tow up that road, and if I had to, I would probably be using pullouts, I'll be honest with you. I mean, this thing, I don't know how the guys do with like the diesel pusher and stuff. Maybe you're grabbing way down on gears or something, but we'll have to see how it does once we get to the tow portion of the program. But for now, if this thing will drive up that hill, which it is a very good grade, I want to say it's like 7 or 10% or something. Yeah, I mean, this thing really has no business over there other than the fact that I'm an idiot and I just want to prove it to myself that this thing will do work. So let me button stuff up, and then we will cruise it around on the new tune, make sure everything looks good. We can kind of try the hill fan button while we're rolling to see if it'll knock it down, you know, and that's about it. We'll get this thing wrapped. Alright, she's not very hot, so we'll jump on the freeway and then we'll get off the next exit, give it a little bit of heat, maybe cruise back on like the side road and then jump back on the freeway. So try to put some heat in it, but it's not a very warm day, so we'll see how she does trying to get up to temp. But I think rolling around really slow is the key to getting this thing to get up to, you know, to the 200s. Driving down the freeway ain't gonna do it, so give her a little bit of beans. Yeah, 25% throttle. Look at that. Merging like a boss, baby. Oh, stupid traffic. Alright, we'll jump off the next exit. I'll bring you back. Okay, she's at 196 with the headwind doing about 50, 55, 60. 197, so the fans aren't kicking on. We're doing a little bit of a hill into a headwind, so I feel good about that. I have the fans kicking off like 204. So we're to call it good here, jump off, load her back home, we'll wrap this thing. So Bago's doing phenomenal. We're back home, and I'm gonna run an experiment. So what I did is I'm starting the fans off at 200 degrees because it takes a minute before they get up to spinning. So I started at 200, it's 202, I don't hear them yet. 203, kind of hear them. So it's 204, now I can hear them zinging. And then we just sent it. So I changed it. It's still off at 195, but we got to run it hard. So this is the third time I tested this. I want to see how long it takes me to get it back down to 195 when the things are zinging. So we'll wrap this test. I'll let you know how long it took with the different pulse width settings. We'll kind of decide where we want to keep the thing. And I'm almost thinking we just turn them on when they need to be on, and then turn them off when they don't need to be on. If that makes sense. So see, 197. Don't pay attention to the fuel. That guy's doing his own thing. 96. Almost 195. And woo! All right, they're off. So 10 degree swing, takes about 1:40 to knock the heat out of the thing. We'll shut her down, give it a break. But yeah, here, let me show you. So I'll screen capture that. Here are the tests that I did. So it was, yeah, so it's not bad. So the original one I had in here, it took 2 minutes and 10 seconds, the original way that I had it, to take it. It was a little over 10 degrees though. And then I adjusted everything up, and it was 1 minute 50 seconds. And then we just put it damn near on kill. So it's not quite wide open, but it's pretty close, in 1:50. So that's pretty darn good in my book. So I think we're just gonna zing them. Let me know what you guys think we should do. If we should just kind of ease them in, let them kind of spin, or we just turn them on, knock the heat out of it, and turn them off, and go about our merry way. Because I'm kind of thinking we'll just run it like that. And then the nice thing too, like I said, I can flip the switch, and then it'll turn them on even earlier, like for climbing hills or if we're in traffic and I want to just kind of keep the temps a bit lower, so we could just run them with that as need be. So that is it. Thank you guys for watching, listening to me ramble. Until next time, you guys know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, click the chicken. I'm out.